everybody. I am so thrilled to be here today to have a really awesome chat about B2B marketing. I'm Leah Ryder. I'm the Senior Director and Head of Marketing for Outshift by Cisco. And I have a really special guest joining me today.
My name's Andrew Warden. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at SEMRush, which is a digital marketing SaaS software company. Which I hope some have heard of, and it's okay if not. I'll explain a little. We have some supporters in the crowd. Very cool. Very cool. Great.
Yeah, our whole team is using SEMRush.
Amazing.
So
Thank you.
We're really excited to speak with you.
Sure.
And our theme today is breaking boundaries in B2B marketing. And this is what I think our audience is going to learn is you have a really fascinating story and experience about this at SEMRush.
Way back when I was at Cisco, but not that long ago, maybe 2008 through 2014, 15, something like this, I think. And even at that time, I would like to actually be as bold and say that I was already kind of breaking boundaries at the time, before sales enablement apps were a thing, before there's the whole industries around this. In the emerging markets, and that time, that theater, we were looking to equip all of our salespeople, many whom English was a third language, with all the right collateral at the right place, with Salesforce integration and all of these things. You can imagine being this big, some person in London going to corporate in San Jose saying, hey, we need this, and being told no, and then going and doing it anyway. Is a pretty exciting journey. And so once I discovered that no one is going to give you permission, you need to take it. And if you can stump up enough investment just to get an MVP out, you'd be amazed at what can happen. And as I've kind of gone through my own journey with my own career, this is my third time now being a CMO. SEMRush is a company that, again, as a marketing leader, my teams have always used SEMRush. So when I got the chance to talk to the leadership at SEMRush a couple of years ago, I thought, gosh, what a dream. You know, it's one thing to be a CMO at any company, to be a leader at any company. For me, to be a chief marketing officer at a marketing company is honestly, a dream. Now, every day, is it easy? No, it's work, of course. But if there was ever a dream job, because I don't want us to just go and find the most efficient channels to acquire customers and all of these things that we must do. We must drive revenue. Our division is responsible chiefly for driving new user acquisition, full stop. So we're not just marketing, right? We're marketing and sales together. And I would just say that that for me, I don't want to be just the best in that part of the business, but I want to also inspire other marketers out there to look at our campaigns and say, oh, did that,
Right.
They did what? That's exactly the kind of emotion that I want people to be gripped by. Yeah. So that's part of my opening on breaking boundaries. I don't know.
I think marketing for a marketing company, obviously, like you said, it sets a high bar, but it seems like you're really passionate about that. And rather than that being something intimidating, it's something that maybe inspired you and those experiences through those CMO roles to this stage. You don't take the seat and say, I have an idea, this is important, we need to do it this way. So
yeah,
I'd love to just kind of use that to open it up for you in this experience and
sure,
where you've arrived today with this breaking these boundaries for SEMRush and what that's yielded for your team.
When I arrived, I was amazed at the growth trajectory that the company was on, because it wasn't quite a whoever shouts the loudest gets most. I know that's a very familiar language in a company like Cisco. It certainly wasn't during my time. But you effectively had each product team trying to run campaigns concurrently and eating into the same budget, driving the cost of acquisition up. And one of the first things I did in the first 90 days is we wrecked all of that. And it was wildly unpopular. But I'm not here to be popular. I'm here to grow our business. And at the time, it was very, very difficult, I would say, because you had teams all over the world. We're global, just like Cisco. And it was very difficult for some people to process that they wouldn't be able to have like total control over their campaigns, that we would have to build into a broader company narrative. But once we launched the first couple of motions and people saw that it worked, it changed, like multiple light bulbs went off. But this idea of like breaking a boundary, I mean, this was something that was like set in stone for several years. And I'll never forget, it was my first all hands, and I was for the whole company, and I was showing part of the methodology on why we're moving here. And someone very bravely, which I loved, said, "Are you sure this is going to work?" like called it out in front of the whole company. And I'm like, I want to know that person's name. This person is amazing. And I said, excellent question. Let me tell you why. And so I just was talking about the kind of years of doing that, trying these different things. The idea of pivoting to value-based selling or value-based marketing. I know this is very popular language in larger companies, but it's really very simple. It's how are you communicating the emotional benefits to your customer, and then the actual value that they're getting, and then the product-led messaging. Because when it comes down to it, you always have to talk about what you're going to do to change someone's life or make it improve it. And so now we're firmly on that path at SEMRush, and I can just say that it has also helped guide the culture too, right? Because again, I don't want us to just be the best platform on the market. I don't want us to have the strongest numbers or to not only outshine our competitors, but I want us to win in marketing, because that will help our customers ultimately anyway.
I was going to say, it sounds like it's putting you in better touch with your customers and their complete experience as marketers and what they need. SEMRush is a piece of that, but to be able to embody and reflect that entire experience creates not just usage, but like loyalty.
So speaking of a customer, this is Gabby alias. My first post, whatever that means, COVID trip in October of 2021, my second month of the company. It's the first time that I've been overseas for work since before the pandemic. And my theme here is really challenge all of us to keep our ears open and our eyes open for customers and champions of your brand or champions of Outshift or whomever, because they're everywhere and you probably just don't realize it. But how about if you actually put your customer, an actual customer, as the hero of the campaign?
Yeah.
Because it makes it a hell of a lot easier to shoot the creative, to make all of the Insta reels, to make all of these assets, when this person is obviously it's acting because you have to be on set for 2 days, but she's just being herself. And this for me was like a phenomenal test, because that I had never done before. Because this is very risky if you think about it. It's not a trained actress. It's not easy being on camera, running around New York, running around Brooklyn, running around Manhattan, doing multiple costume changes and all of this stuff. It's a big deal.
Yeah, and you have the other company involved and what they're comfortable with.
It's a lot.
Releases and
it's a lot. But just the idea of actually going and again, we weren't, you'll see some of the creative in a little bit, but we weren't out there saying like, Gabby achieves #1 Google ranking with SEMRush. Like, we weren't saying things like that. We were saying that Gabby is in control of her day because of SEMRush. Gabby can be a DJ on the weekend or on weeknights, which is actually her side hustle, because she can get all of her stuff done during the day and in like less time. And so what we learned is that this is the most successful type of content, or this kind of asset class, if you will, that we've ever run in the company's history, certainly at the attract stage, at the top of the funnel. Where it starts to fall down, which I'm very open about, is when you get further down, when you actually hit someone a couple of times with retargeting and ads. This is when you need to start serving up like the real product levers that you're pulling on. And look, we did 3 of these last year. This is the one that took off. The others didn't do so well. Just being, full transparency, right? We tried to follow SMBs, but we couldn't get to the lifestyle part because they, we didn't connect as well with them. So I don't know. For me, it's a really interesting test, and what it's now shown us is that we can be incredibly playful. We were already a bit jokesters anyway with our brand, and I'm sure some of you guys have seen some of the stuff online, but now we really push it as far as we want because people actually like it the most.
The human side, it's hard. And authenticity, I mean, we're bombarded with so much these days. I think we have a really like a radar for authenticity. But when the relationship you struck up with her and the authenticity of that and the enthusiasm fueled it, I think those are the moments you have to kind of keep an internal radar on. Does this feel, feels right? Does this feel right? There's that art and science balance. And maybe sometimes we hide too much behind the science. And so we're a little bit afraid of unlocking the art.
Well, and I think especially because we didn't have any data to even know if it was going to work. I think this was like the big bet.
Yes.
And for me, like, best case, it does decent job. Like right now, just to give you an idea, and yes, there's a slide with numbers, but I'll just talk you through it. We were meant to close the campaign in April, but the ad fatigue, like it has so much more flight time than we originally thought, because it just continues to perform well. So we'll probably run it till January or February. So this tremendous ROI.
Yeah.
Like we thought, again, and because I'll be honest, this style, even though it looks very effortless and some of it looks more low budget, especially the stuff for Insta, it's, as you know, it's not, video's not cheap, but at the same time, when you can run it for 3 times as long, then you're kind of in amazing territory. You hit a point though about kind of creating that connection, and I think that's one of the main things I wanted to leave people with, even if I talk about it early on in today's talk, that everyone, especially in large companies, they want to be close to the customer. They want to talk with customers, the voice of the customer, all of these things. What if you actually got on a plane and went and met with one of them? Like, what if you took them for a coffee? What if you met for lunch? Like today, we met for lunch, and it's amazing to get to know people, and you might be surprised. Like, you have a lot more champions than you realize. And it doesn't have to be a full-scale flagship campaign. It could be a series of assets that are created, but from that person's voice. So it's not like you need mega bucks to do this. You could do it on a more local scale.
Yeah, I mean, you could even just take quotes and put them up in animated form with a social campaign that takes an intern and Canva if you're really at that stage. So, but it brings to life the world of the customer, like you said, the voice of the customer. I mean, these products are just one small piece of their full experience, and we hope that piece makes their whole experience a lot better. But it's like if you were at a party and you only wanted to talk to somebody about one topic.
Well, that's actually great. That's great at a party. That's a great point.
I always think of brands at a party. So what are all the facets of your brand at an event, and how would you play with those to be a great guest? Engaging, thoughtful, responsive. Yeah,
because for this campaign and for these series, we thought about how are we hooking with the emotional values. So there's connections to community, to culture and subculture, things that people identify with the most. And so we went through we're marketers, so we know a lot about our audience. So tapping into interests, dreams, attitudes, all of this, I felt that was one of the most obvious things that we had never done. And it's very, I like this analogy of the party, right? Because if you go up to someone and start talking about, talking at someone rather, which is frankly what B2B marketing is still, you're talking at people all the time, hoping that they have a need to buy your product or service. And I think this is great, because once you actually say something that's interesting that someone can identify with, then you give them your pitch. Then you say, hey, now that I have your attention, have you thought about this? And that's where we saw quite a bit of traction.
Do we want to take a look at the creative, since
we can?
These were your brand attributes for the campaign?
Yes. So actually, these are our brand attributes. Full stop.
I was going to ask you,
full stop.
Were these different or the
same?
No,
that's why that's why she was so compelling for us.
Yes.
Because again, when you find someone that you can connect with so well, you also don't worry. Like, even with a trained actor or actress, like, you still, it's not authentic.
Yeah.
It's just not. This is who she is. And we went and filmed her in Brooklyn, like in a live set. We went and, it wasn't staged. This is just, I'll build up to the creative. I'll just walk you through some of it. So just to give you some examples of, a brand arc. So this whole idea was, this is about life on her terms. She can do whatever she wants at whatever time, and it's because of SEMRush. That was the idea.
I am bold and daring. I'll take thrill and adrenaline over drama. I've traveled, seen places, and grown. They see what is, I see what can be. For me, a single beat can grow into an iconic record. I act where others hold back. I disrupt, push, and change. I want to go further and climb that infinite rock. I may fall flat on my face, but I will rise up again. I am out there proud, grabbing life by the horns and making things happen. I am having it all. I am living it, life on my own terms.
this is not a B2B marketing campaign. It's like, you would think it's fashion, you think it's for a magazine or something like, and basically she's saying some people wake up every day, they check the weather, they check their stocks, they check something. I check SEMRush. Like, this is what makes me feel good in the morning. Like, I'm making my coffee, I know where I'm ranked, I know what's going on, I know what I have to pay attention to for the day.
These shots are fantastic. It really looks like you're following along. Like, you're looking over her shoulder. Mm-hmm. There's some of those shots where you're looking up at the street sign. Mm-hmm. Really feel like, was that intentional?
Absolutely. No, everything. I mean, you're meant to be like right alongside her or over her shoulder. Mm-hmm. And in this spot, this is, I would say this is even more rich with her own lifestyle of, this is her day in New York. You might have read from some of the captions, she's going up for it, she's going for it, and then she's falling flat on her face, she's failing, she's learning, life is not so easy. And also, I also love this story because it's like a person earlier in career in New York. Like, it's not as easy to make it in New York, all of these kind of tropes that we think about. And as you can see, she's jumping into the subway, she's just always in a rush, she's always kind of in charge of where she wants to go. And I think, again, there's so many parallels with what our customers tell us about SEMRush all the time, that, if it wasn't for SEMRush, I wouldn't be able to be like in control of all these things when I get up in the morning or, before I go to bed at night. And that was also what inspired this too. Also because it's true for Gabby. Like, she told me that.
Benefits over features.
Right.
It's so tempting to focus on features. Mm-hmm. We misinterpret those as benefits because, well, it's SEO. The SEO is there. People aren't searching for like how to save more time on the reporting, or they might be,
right.
But we think that the value is in the feature name that they eventually get to. But that's later down the funnel, like you said. Mm-hmm. It's almost like you need to put them all together. Every
company has different journey maps and different permutations of those. But when we step back, again, it's not nowhere near the size or the equity that a company like Cisco has. But in our space, it is quite saturated in terms of the equity in the market. And so we actually started scaling back at certain points, even lower down the funnel, when people are searching for, SEMRush or branded searches. It's like, especially right now when it's kind of all over the place, all the markets everywhere are very wobbly still. But what we notice is that once we're getting people further down, we don't have to accelerate as much with some of the motions, still with plenty, but that was something that surprised me. So this is another one. She's at the cafe.
My name is Gabby. I live in New York City and I work in SEO marketing. My job and my passion is to figure out how to get people to our website. That's why I use SEMRush. They have all the tools that I need to help me expand our audience and grow our business. SEMRush gives me time back and the freedom to be myself. So I can live life on my own terms and never miss a beat.
Be like Gabby. Try SEMRush for free.
Well, these product shots also feel pretty natural in the shot. I think that's also something that's really hard to do. Sometimes it's almost like, I don't know why, but sometimes it can feel like you're just shoehorning in the product. It's hard to really put those two together. But obviously she was so inspirational in how she blends it into her life that you were able to get inspired by that. And that's really listening to the customer.
Yeah. And we also learned some other things too that, not in these necessarily in these creatives, but in the best performing, it was always, we've got to get our name in there in the first 5 seconds, preferably a visual, even though it's meant to be lifestyle and even though it's meant to be a different category of advertising. Showing the product visual so early on, it immediately establishes a connection with the viewer of what they are looking at. Because it's true that if we ran one of these spots where it's about this person's life for 15 or 16 seconds, it's like, why? Who cares? We have to anchor it somehow.
Yeah.
And you start to see even here, like we broke all of our brand guidelines. We broke every rule that we had created for ourselves. And this is what, if there isn't a definition of breaking a boundary, like what is, when the creative team was told that they could take total license, here's her story, here are some of the early visuals. And we did all of the design in-house. The film was done out of house because we don't have everyone on retainer. But I just think it's a pretty great story to be able to just say, you know what, these colors, let's try something different. All the typeface, even the imagery, it's just never been done at our company. We have and I think I'm allowed to say it. We have very kind of stodgy and rather boring illustrations on our site. Like I want to change it, and we will eventually, I'm sure. But this allowed us to escape our own kind of creative paradox in a way, you know. And that was personally just very gratifying, you know.
I mean, I think is the perfect time to ask about buy-in.
Sure.
Both from your leader, your leaders, the CEO, and your peers, as well as almost a brand new team, so that you were navigating. So I'd just love to hear about how you had a vision and how you went and got not just buy-in, I think, but like motivation and passion from the team to do this.
First of all, and I think you have a similar story as well, because you're starting up a new group and you're adding to the team, and I
changing all the rules.
Changing all the rules and breaking the rules. I'm sure that's why we have this theme. I think, you know, when I came, I always like to call it a table of leaders, you know, and everyone had arrived at that table or had been at that table for a certain amount of time and was there for a purpose, and some had achieved that purpose, and some had outgrown their purpose, and some didn't meet their purpose, to be very candid. But you know, there were so many people who had set up all of these rules and who had a vested interest in keeping it that way because it finally works for them and they know how it is. I would say that, you know, finding a couple of people in like my direct reporting team who really gravitated towards the idea naturally because they also want to be disruptive and they also want to try something different. We're very big on experimentation. We have rules. This is one rule that we will never get rid of. If you can model it, you can try it. And we call experiments, or even if they fail, it's okay. You call the shot ahead of time. And if you fail, okay, what did we learn? That's paying for knowledge. When I first joined, I've never had a CEO meet with me for an hour and a half every day for the first 2 months. Every day. With these campaigns, these were what I call mega bets or mega tests. So this is basically the really expensive ones. So you know, if you fail, everyone's going to notice. And he said, you know what? He's like, I've never seen that style here. Like, let's try. And I said, I'm not promising it's going to be driving anything incremental, but we need to give it a shot. It's something totally different. And so, you know, but I also don't rely on him, and I would never ask anyone to do that either. Like, I didn't rely on him to be an advocate. But I did go to the board in February, so just maybe 4 or 5 months after I joined, with a full budget, a full spending program, like what we're going to get for it. And I found buy-in there. And those are, you know, former CEOs of even larger companies. So that was important, I think. But I didn't burn extra time though at that level. I burned the extra time at our senior manager level, at our program manager level, because I wanted to make sure people knew that how much I cared, how much I gave a damn about it.
Well, I think that's also the success of a marketing program, is when it's consistent from A to B or top to bottom or start to finish. So if everyone feels comfortable engaging at every stage and you're setting the example for that, I think that's really important.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that I find that's really unique about SEMRush that I wish I had found earlier in my career, is this idea of always being direct, so you know where you stand with people, even if it's a little bit hard. Like, even if you know how much someone's put into a project, you know, just to tell people, you know, someone told me actually on an interview once about honesty is kindness, you know, and I wish that we all thought about that more. Just say what you think about something, even if it offends someone just for a moment. But at the same time, be polite. You can tell me my work is total shit, but you can be nice to me. You can say this is awful, but I have a rule, which is the third one, that you can criticize and it's welcome, but always keep a way forward. Like, don't back me into a corner.
Yeah.
Don't say, I hate how this looks. Say, because my next question is going to be, how would you like to see it? And I've had too many points in my career before SEMRush where someone says, oh, you're the CMO, you figure it out. And that's when I'm like, I can't do this. I can't. Criticism without any way forward is really just complaining. And I don't know, I think we can all do a bit better than that.
Yeah, I actually always say don't be nice, be kind, because there's the right intention behind what you're moving forward to.
Sure.
I'm going to do one last transition before we get to audience questions.
Cool.
SEMRush is a data company. This is an artistic campaign, or that's a lifestyle campaign. So how did you put the two together and create something really powerful that won on both sides?
Well, if you're asking how do we marry, so it's true, we spent a lot of time talking about the creative.
And some people say that top of funnel campaigns are awareness can't be tracked, or it's harder to
we
track.
track everything.
That's the thing. I want to myth bust.
Oh yeah,
so I'll stop with my question.
Oh, let me.
This is
this is great. Okay, I got you. Now I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I got you. Okay, so yeah, this is one thing that that it really drove home for me. Like the day that I showed up at SEMRush, where it's like, I don't want to ever hear anyone say a brand campaign doesn't create revenue, or like brand campaigns equal performance campaigns equal revenue. If you're creating traffic, you're creating revenue. If you can't track it, that's your fault. Go fix it. Go set up your own marketing analytics engine. You can buy several of them. You can hire your own team. We don't trust anyone, so we do it ourselves inside. We should, as a data company. So when it came to these campaigns, again, I would say we even over-rotated on the top of the funnel to attract people. So we drove outsized traffic. This campaign, even it was only 2 months ago, where we were already 45% over our target, which was already super lofty. It was like 145% growth, and that was actually in revenue. So the way we think about our analytics, and I'll keep it high level because that's important, but as a SaaS business, I'm laser focused on unique traffic as a first, registration, trials, and the new users who come through. I'm 100% gold on that. Not many CMOs actually have a number. I do. And so the idea that we would run a brand campaign or go for impressions or something like this is total. It would never work. And where some of it didn't work, because what I'm not showing you is like our SMB campaign where we followed a baker and we followed a florist but we didn't tell their story. And that's why I think it didn't work. And so anyway, long story short, we're running the campaign 3 times longer because as of right now, there's zero evidence of ad fatigue. So we're looking at diminishing returns all the time. We look at a channel basis. We track 15 different channels. And I don't know how often you all look at revisiting the weighting of your attribution, but we just updated it, and that has the whole team. Everyone's revisiting all of their plans for the rest of the year. So
it's good to update your attribution models.
When was the last time that you guys thought about it?
Well, actually, we're revamping the entire thing
probably,
right now.
Right.
Yeah, building it from the ground up.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, let's take a turn to some audience questions. We have our wonderful friend Julie here.
Hi, Julie.
Hi. So first of all, thank you both. This has been such a phenomenal chat and so insightful. A few questions that we've had come in from our audience today. The first one is, what are the biggest challenges you are seeing your customers face from a marketing perspective?
As of right now, people are still wondering where to balance budget spend. This is an excellent time to slow down on paid. If you haven't already, I hope that you already have. Maybe you think about it more. There have been many changes across the field, I would say, in how some search engines run. But still, it's right now, I would say that most of our customers are asking, you'd be surprised, more and more on organic channels. Because right now the return just isn't there for most business. I can't generalize. For some businesses, it's not there for paid ads. We're still running paid ads. I'm just not running as many. They're just optimized heavily. This time last year it was different, but this year it's very strange. If you were to, not that you would, but if you were to listen to our earnings calls, we have incredibly strong demand on the front end. So we know that people are out there buying. We know that there's need in the market for marketers to figure out what's going on right now and how to serve their business. So I'd say really the number one question I get, especially from small business owners or even from enterprise companies, like how should I spend my budget right now? Should I spend all of it? Should I spend half of it? Should I bank it with an agency? Like, what should I do?
Yeah.
This I get almost every day.
Yeah.
I think that actually answers the question.
I love this one. Could you share an instance where something innovative led to an unexpected success?
I love this question. Thank you.
I'm thinking too, just on adding on that, it's like you came in and set the standard to break the rules. Mm-hmm. So And is your team breaking the rules now?
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Now that now they all know that they have license, and so now
Yeah.
it's kind of a point where, like, I wouldn't call that people challenge or like talk back, but it's kind of like that, and I love that.
That's fantastic.
I love
Yeah.
because we have enough trust in the team. We've invested a lot of time to be together, and so I love it when people interrupt me on my staff call and say, I'm so sorry, but I have to disagree for 1, 2, 3, 4. So they're breaking, but let's go.
Like an example of that.
The example. So the part about being innovative, in my second week, during one of these stand-ups from our CEO, he said, oh, by the way, I flew in your team. They're coming next week. You might want, and I haven't met them yet. I haven't even talked to them yet. You might want to take them off-site to get to know, not in the office, And so I wrote to them ahead of time and I said, look, let's do this day. And this is not a very corporate culture. We don't have team meetings that are structured. There's, it's a lot more abstract. But here I put some kind of ground rules on. This is how this day's going to go. This day's going to go. And I said, the third day is when you're going to show up in the morning and you're going to give me your best ideas that have absolutely nothing to do with budget, restriction, organizational friction. If you had $100 million check, what would you do? And during that session, someone said, oh, we should go and acquire this site or this company. And I said, why would we want to do it? How much would it cost? He said, it's going to go this many millions. And this is why, because they have high traffic volume for very similar audience for us. And what if we could direct them to SEMRush? We closed 6 weeks later, like bought the company. For us, it's a big deal. Like it was a big transaction.
Amazing.
It's all, and it's again that's actually publicly available information, so you can find how much it was. But like this wasn't like a $500,000 or $1 million acquisition. It was an acquisition, and so the idea that within the first 90 days we're already breaking. Not only are we doing these things, but we're also acquiring companies to generate traffic. And now this is a really important motion, So it's, I mean, that's one example.
That's amazing. I love that. Thanks, Andrew. Another one here. How should competitive activity be analysed to inform strategy?
Which answer do you want? The shameless plug for SEMRush or the, let's see. No, so it's true. And I use these tools. There's all of the .trends tools within SEMRush that let you look at competitors and how they're also running campaigns. That there's all of this data that's available. But was the question, how should it be tracked, or why is it important? What was the?
Why is it important to analyze what your competitors are doing?
I think it's better. I think it's, first of all, you have to know what the discourse is. You have to know what other people are talking about, how that's trending, because they might be putting out like total messages, and you can actually see their spend. You can see how it's going. I'm sorry, I swear all the time. I'm from New York. This is how it happens. So I would say that it is most important to know what's going on in your space, what campaigns they're running that are either succeeding or failing, and then this allows you to jump above because you already know what they're talking about. Yeah. You already know what they're putting out there. This is what I do.
Yeah, I think you want to use it so you can actively make a choice on what else different to do. There is enough groupthink in the space. It can happen if you're not paying attention.
Sure.
You come up with a great idea, it's already being done.
Sure.
But sometimes I think people think you have to look at competitive and that you're always in a comparison way. Like, are we better? Are we worse? And I think you can get in your head about that, but rather use it to your power to say, well, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, this is exactly what I do. Yeah, I don't think too much about, like, are we better? I already know our space quite well in terms of number count and overall market share. We're in a strong leading position. So I just don't want to look or sound anything like them. I want to always be 10 steps ahead. That's how I think about it.
How do you make sure all cross-functional motions like product, marketing, etc. are aligned and moving together seamlessly? I know we certainly have this challenge in Cisco sometimes.
Going back to the point where we kind of broke this system where the product marketers in each product unit, they would say, we're going to run 5 campaigns and they're going to be this time of year. And internally within global marketing, our paid agency was kind of captive to this, right? And even though there was some pushback on, would you consider a lower budget for this, or would you try? Ultimately, the decision was in the product team. After I broke that, and upset everybody, then I said, look, let's restore this in a different light. And this is where the buy-in started to happen. This is when people felt seen. They felt like I was listening to, and I was genuinely like, hello, I've also been a product marketer. Thank you very much. I know what it's like when a manager snaps something and says, you don't have that budget anymore. I know exactly how that feels like. Basically, we went and approached all the product and said, look, here are the 1, 2, or 3 meta narratives that we want to cover. This is what we want to say as a company in FY22 and FY23 and FY24. We in global marketing are going to run one campaign for the first 6 months, the second campaign. This is what we're going to talk about here. If you would like free advertising, if you would like to be part of this, if you would like us to make all of the assets for you and you supply the messages and the creative input, we would be delighted if you would partner with us. Changes the narrative a little bit, right? I don't have to go spend my budget to make it. I don't have to, and you piggyback on a multi-million ad play. So that changed the dynamic a bit because they said, oh, wait a second. This person actually wants my campaigns to be successful, but also for SEMRush to be successful. Yeah. At the same point, we also kept so those are called the kind of tier 1 campaigns. We kept tier 2 and tier 3. Those are much more on a local scale where these product marketers could engage agency internally or externally, and they could run just on smaller budgets, very targeted, like precise campaigns. And that gave freedom back while still playing into this overall company motion that I just needed us to be in, Because otherwise, just the very idea that we would have cannibalization in our own audiences, that's one thing. But to be outbidding one another is just bad for share. I mean, it's just bad for business.
Brilliant, thank you. What are some of the best practices you use at SEMRush when you and your team use the tool?
Well, I would say that I always go back to, if we're not driving traffic, we're not driving anything. So I would say traffic for me, both all the traffic analytics, all of the domain searches, like we go really deep, and if you were to talk to Kyle, he would give you even more. We go really deep into investigating like how our own pages are working. We make the tool for marketers, so we use it every day ourselves. Mm-hmm. At Cisco, we used to have this idea of living lab, and we have this practice as well internally. So I would say in my team, I have brand, I have paid, I have organic. We have all of our they're almost channel based. And each person, each leader kind of owns part of this tool and how they use it for the team. So I would say that we don't make any decisions in terms of the best practice. We don't make any decisions without our data that backs it up, depending on the channel. So I would say it's channel specific.
Thank you. What are the essential SEO, SEM practices that marketers should make sure are completed for each piece of content, and why?
Wow.
Well, that's a big question.
Wow, that's an hour long answer. Let me make it
Get
short.
comfortable.
Which are the ones that really annoy
I'm
you
wired.
when they're not done?
I'm wired to the seat, so I can't move. Okay, let's back up. Let's first talk about generative AI's role here, because if you're not experimenting with this now, you're already behind. I think it's fair to say that even in our own team, in our own SEO team for SEMRush, we've been experimenting for some time. And actually, we had an AI tool even before ChatGPT that was drafting copy. Now it's called Content Shake. You can use it. It's in the apps in our app store that will help you write content. But I think a lot of people are missing out on the fact that GPT or Gen AI can get you 70% of the way there, which is very crucial for copywriters and blog editors, etc. But you're still got that last 30% of that last mile has to have human intervention. This for me is the number one piece. And in order to do that human intervention well, you have to have good research on what keywords your audience or audiences are looking for and where and how. And once you can triangulate all of those 6 different vectors, then you go back to human intervention. I'm just saying this is what we do. That and incredibly complicated prompts. I challenge you to come up with a figure in the thousands of words of what we actually use for prompts. Wow. It's pretty high, yeah. That's as good as I can do for now. But I can
take that.
Philosophical approach to it.
Okay. Well, I think it's also but it's practical. It's people are doing this. Everyone's doing this now. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the reality of.
Yeah.
like you said, if you're not using it, you're behind. So this is kind of where we're at.
Just waking people up,
Okay, I think we've got time for one more question before we finish. When you are making a strong shift, how do you make sure that you keep your product message out there?
Good question. Okay, so when we made these shifts, it was really important to me that everyone understood that we weren't displacing product message. When you break your norms or you break what you're used to, you're not burning the whole house down. You're just changing a bit of the decor, or you're changing even the structure, but you still have the foundation. The foundation is your product message. That might need to be altered or improved or changed a bit depending on the context. But I would say that was something I didn't know earlier in my career, and that was a problem then. But now it's crystal clear to me. Again, you can hook on emotional, you can connect with lifestyle, you can break your own norms of how you market. But if you don't have that PLG mindset or the product growth mindset and what that product will do to ultimately change your customer's life, even if it's for 10 minutes a day, I don't care. 10 minutes a day is enough.
All right, well, I think we can almost let you go, Andrew.
Okay.
Just last thing, because I think I'll just connect it to the beginning. I mean, 2 years in this role is really fantastic. And I know that you're dedicated to this for the long term. So what are you most excited about on the long-term roadmap? Where do you want your team to be at 5 years or whatever?
Yeah. I was just thinking about that. A couple months ago, we started doing kind of long-term leadership planning for the team. It's one thing to come in at the very beginning when you can change, like I say, change your table. I have the table in place now. We have people at the top of their fields. And actually, just yesterday, we started kicking off within our own HR team. I'm starting a leadership development program for these leaders for the eight reports that I have. So what am I excited about for the next couple of years? We are exploring this idea of the acquisition that I told you about that we did a couple weeks in, that we seeded and then closed. That's now a big part of our plan, for some time to go and try to replicate that. It was a good test. So we'll see. We haven't signed off, we haven't agreed, but that's one thing I'm interested in exploring. I'm also interested in exploring more. We've made so many changes to our paid team. There have been many modifications to different paid channels, especially over the last year and a half. So I am so focused, and the team is so focused on incrementality. If you analyze our past performance, technically speaking, I can tell you right now, if we spent $0 on marketing next year, how much business we would still bring in. And I'll tell you something, it's very humbling as an executive leader to know that if everybody just disappeared, be chugging along pretty well for some time, because you have enough momentum, right? But we don't want to do that.
It's a sign of a great program.
It's a sign of a great program. It's a sign of a great team and a great company. But that's my point, though, is that it's not good enough, right? Of course, we're going to continue to invest.
Yes.
So for me, there's still a ton of runway in paid channels, in organic. But we also have I think at Cisco, it's the channel partner program. We have an equivalent. We're putting more substance around it, being a stronger channel partner. So for me, that's kind of on the pure revenue, on the pure growth side. For me personally, I think one of the things I'm most looking forward to is growing the people on my team, because it is very rare to have the kind of relationships that we have. And that only comes from that radical candor, but also trust. And I'm not speaking in corporate terms here. I mean it. It's like people who actually give a shit about one another, and they want to make something amazing together. And that's something I haven't felt actually, the last time I felt that was at Cisco. And I'm serious. And it's so nice to rediscover that feeling. Different setting, but familiar feeling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Sure.
So
Pleasure.
Inspiring to hear from a Cisco alum, right? And see where your marketing career can take you. And I also hope it inspired everyone here and watching on WebEx to push a boundary or two, try something new in pursuit of a really exciting outcome for your program and for your career. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Great.